I don't know about you, but I am fed up of asking someone who their favorite director is or their favorite directors and they list only men. It's like, oh, what about women? And they're like, I don't really know any female directors. Well, sweetie, watch this video and you will not have that excuse anymore. And who knows, you may even learn that some of your favorite movies were actually made by women. Hi, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren, the film student extraordinaire, and today we are talking about the first set of 50 female directors that we are going to be learning about over the next couple weeks here on this channel. So if you're interested in learning about all 50 of them, that means you have to make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications.
I was kissing you with my eyes open. You said keep them close.
Now I want to put out there that this list and the list in the next few videos I will make are in no particular order. I'm just going to be going through 10 directors, a video for 5 videos to cover 50 female directors. Just in the order of my research / when I was thinking of female directors that I really like, women in film that I admire. Now this is just directors. Some of them may also be producers or actors, but they are primarily directors, and that is like something they do. So there could be an amazing female producer that I'm not mentioning because she is not a director. Our first female filmmaker will be Kelly Reichardt. You may know her from First Cow because that was what I would say like one of her recent films from 2019. But her first feature was actually River of Grass in 1994. Now she's a minimalist style filmmaker, really big on slow cinema. She likes to explore rural communities, which I think is very cool. And she also, within those rural communities, likes to depict the working class. Some other films that she is known for would be Certain Women from 2016 and Meek's Cutoff in 2010. Something that I also really love about her work is that she wants audiences to come to their own conclusions about her films, so the endings are often left rather ambiguous. She also focuses a lot on atmosphere and attitude as well as the plot, so there's a lot of world building, which some people might be boring and feel like, why are we learning about this because it's not necessary? But to me, it makes just a totally immersive cinematic experience. And then a key quote of hers that I chose is, she's interested in characters who don't have a net, who if you sneezed on them, their world would fall apart. Now, I don't exactly know what she meant by that, obviously, but to me, it really resonates as though she's interested in characters who are on the brink. She doesn't care about like a strong, stable character who anything can happen to them and they can just take it and keep going. She cares about people who are at a turning point in their lives. They're on the brink. And I really relate to that because although I don't know exactly how on the brink I am in some ways, I'm coming to terms with various like mental health diagnoses. I'm graduating college soon. There's all these choices that are coming up, all these decisions that I feel like I'm wavering between, and that's why I chose that quote. Our next female filmmaker is Lulu Wang. Wang is a Chinese filmmaker. She does a lot of comedies, but she does some like comedy dramas and also a ton of other things. Her feature film debut was Posthumous from 2014, and some other select filmography includes Pisces from 2005, which was her first short, Fishing the Gulf, which was her first documentary short, and then maybe her most famous film at the moment would be The Farewell from 2019. Something that I greatly admire her for is that Wang refuses to whitewash any of her films. So if a studio says like people aren't going to like this, it's not going to go for it, it's not going to make money, she just puts her foot down and says, well, it's either the film as is or nothing. And that's incredible. The quote that I chose of hers to share is, in some ways, every character we write, especially the protagonist, is some version of ourselves as a writer-director, even if they aren't the same gender. I think that is totally true because they have to come from somewhere, or they have to come from maybe like a version of yourself and someone you interacted with so much that you like knew their experiences and they're kind of like some person who helped shape your character, I would say is also like another reading of that and how I personally interpret it. But I think that every character comes from something real and raw. No character is just completely plucked out of nowhere and created. Then we have Regina King for our third female filmmaker. She is primarily an American actress and a TV director, but she famously did One Night in Miami, which was her feature film debut, and this was just in 2020, so it's pretty recent. In a both good and bad thing, her feature film, One Night in Miami, was the first film by an African-American woman, to be selected at the Venice Film Festival. Obviously incredible for her, but it is sad to me that she's the first African American woman, considering the Venice Film Festival has been running for many, many years. Then her key quote that I will be sharing is, "If you have the opportunity for your art to meet activism, you shouldn't pass that up when it comes your way." Because I really believe in having films that tell stories about some kind of underrepresented topic, which often right now has been like mental health struggles, then to me that is a form of activism. So I completely agree that like if there's a way to make if you have a story that also pushes a movement that you really believe in, go for it. Because film is such a great way to communicate with people of all walks of life. They can all understand the medium. Maybe you need subtitles depending on the language, but it's a visual storytelling tool. So if this is a way, it can be a great way to mobilize the forces and like really make change. Then we have a very special filmmaker who actually went to the Temple Film School, and her name is Chinoye Chukwu. She is a Nigerian American filmmaker, and I just think it's so, so cool that she is so talented and successful and went to my film school. Her feature film debut was Alaska Land in 2012, and her other select filmography include The Dance Lesson, which was a short in 2010, and then her big film, Clemency, from 2019. She was the first Black woman to win the U.S. Dramatic Grand Jury Prize at Sundance, which is a huge accomplishment. Again, it's a sad testimonial to the state of the industry, with racism and sexism highly prevalent, especially with intersectional prejudices, but I'm very happy for her. Her key quote that I will be sharing is, "When I started to detach from ego and embrace the unwavering belief that I am enough, I started making films for myself and embracing the craft of filmmaking again. Consequently, my work got so much better." I think this is something that for me I chose because I definitely feel like sometimes you get so focused on like making an award-winning film, or making this gorgeous piece that really will elevate yourself, and you lose sight of the thing that matters, which is the story and how you tell it. So to really just like take away from like what other perspectives could be. Also, I apologize if you hear that. It is so windy right now in Philadelphia. It's been crazy windy like all day and yesterday, so I just had to film. Anywho, I think it's just so incredible and such a great role model way of speaking. Our next female filmmaker, which is number 5, is Chloe Zhao. Chloe Zhao became pretty famous very recently when she was the second woman ever to win Best Director at the Academy, which is an Oscar, which was insane that she's only the second woman ever, but anyways. Anywho, so she's a Chinese filmmaker who's mostly known for a lot of her independent work. Her feature film debut was The Atlas Mountains in 2009, and then her select filmography that I picked would be Songs Never Taught Me from 2015, Nomadland 2020, the film that won her the Oscar, and then Eternals 2021, which is obviously not an independent film as it was a Marvel blockbuster movie, which I admittedly have not seen because I don't really like Marvel at this point in my life. Another note of hers that I want to include is that I really like how her films focus, except for Eternals, on authenticity. They emphasize real stories, they're talking about real people, and that to me is very powerful. Her key quote, "I want to find new ways to place the camera to evoke more of a feeling. My goal is to put the camera inside of the character." As filmmakers, we're often told, to be innovative with where we put the camera, or if you're going to do things like old school, to be innovative with blocking. And there are 3 things you can move, right? You can move the camera, you can move the characters, and then you can move in the edit. So it's nice to think about moving the camera like into the character, because then you're almost combining 2 of those things to make something really dynamic. And obviously you can't literally put the camera in the character, but it's just supposed to be, I assume, like a thought-provoking way to think about your like storyboarding and shot listing for your movie. Then we have another one of my favorite filmmakers, Celine Shama. She is an incredible French filmmaker who did literally one of my favorite movies of all time, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. But before we get totally blown away and just talk about that, let's actually do the thing that I was supposed to talk about in my notes. So she's a French filmmaker, as I said, who focuses a lot on gender fluidity and sexuality in her films, especially amongst girls and women. Her feature film debut was Water Lilies from 2007, and then what I consider to be her select filmography that I chose, the top 3, would be Girlhood from 2014, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, 2019, and then Petite Maman from 2021. I think that she is just so incredible, and she has been an incredible contributor to, honestly, like, international discourse on gender fluidity in cinema. She also talks a lot about the female gaze and has really shifted cinema discourse to talking about that. I mean, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is like all about the female gaze, and there might be like jokes like, oh, haha, this man was written by like women, or if I was written in the female gaze or the male gaze, and sometimes people laugh it off, but it's really beautiful to watch a movie as a woman, written by a woman who isn't trying to objectify in the, what I consider to be an often derogatory way that the male gaze is created by and for in films. Key quote: "The male gaze is obsessed with representing lesbians, for instance. It's a way to control it. Our stories are powerful because they are dangerous. We are dangerous." Right, so like when a man makes a film about lesbians, like he could make a good movie, but a lot of times, especially in the past, it's been rather like fetishized, and you get the sense that like this, and if there's a sex scene, it's not made for women, it's made as something erotic for men to watch. And obviously if women are lesbians, they're not interested in men at all, so they're not doing anything for a man. So that's what I think she means when she's saying like men do this to control the lesbian representation and image, and then Celine's just like, hold my beer, you know? Then for number 7, we have Greta Gerwig. Now Greta Gerwig really like exploded onto the film directing scene with Lady Bird, but she is also an actress and has done a lot of work that way. She also often collaborates with her partner Noah Baumbach, so that's cool for them. Her feature film debut, Lady Bird from 2017, and then some other select filmography she doesn't have as much because she is not primarily a director, would be Nights and Weekends from 2008, which she co-directed, and then Little Women from 2019. I like that her films are mostly based on her own experiences. Obviously Little Women is not, but it's kind of just like the general sense of, I think, being a woman in that regard. I also like that she doesn't allow her actors to improvise that much because the script is stuck to so specifically. Now this may annoy an actor, but you know, if you write something and you have a deep purpose for a line and why it's there, then you want the line to be said. Obviously there's the tone and inflections that the actor can kind of transform with, but if something's supposed to happen that you believe has its incredible meaning, to cut it out can completely change the story. So I admire her dedication to making people stick to her scripts. Then her key quote was very short but fun. "I'm interested in characters that have just a touch of madness." I love that just a touch, you know, because a character who's just like slightly insane. And I think this all goes back to characters that people actually relate to, are not the perfect, happy, beautiful characters who have the world, you know, laid out in front of them and they can handle everything. They're people who are trying to figure things out. They're kind of desperate. They're like almost there, but then they have some kind of chaotic moment. And that's the kind of story we want to watch. Then we have Jennifer Lee, who's an American screenwriter, filmmaker, and also the chief creative officer of Walt Disney Animation Studios. She has written, produced, and served in like so many roles. Encanto, she was working on Moana, Raya and the Last Dragon. Her big thing that she's known for directing would be Frozen in 2013 and then Frozen 2 in 2019. And her key quote that I chose was, "Be fearless in the pursuit of what sets your soul on fire." I think that is just so incredible to think about what sets your soul on fire. Telling stories gives me such a passion, such excitement, and so does obviously like talking about honestly women in film. I tried to make this video like more professional, but obviously as it's been going on, I've just been getting more excited because I just never hear people talk about women in film the way that I believe they deserve to be, which is the same level of regard that men are talked about in film. So our second to last filmmaker for the day would be Katherine Bigelow, and she was the first woman to win an award, the Academy Award at the Oscars for Best Director. Her films cover a wide range of genres, and she has done a ton of stuff. Her feature film debut was Near Dark in 1987, then her select filmography was The Loveless, 1981, which she co-directed. That was her first film that she worked on, but not by herself, obviously. The Hurt Locker, 2008, and then Zero Dark 30 from 2012. She goes to like crazy extremes for her films, with like things gotta be big and bold, and that's very different than some of the other filmmakers we've talked about, but this just goes to show the variety of talent and incredibleness there are among women. Her quote, "If there is specific resistance to women making movies, I just choose to ignore that as an obstacle for two reasons. I can't change my gender and I refuse to stop making movies." I think that is amazing. I also can't change my gender, and I also refuse to stop making movies. I know that I'm not anywhere near Katherine Bigelow status with my student films and such, but there's still stories that I want to tell, and I will tell them. That's it. The last filmmaker we have in this video is Suzanne Beer. She's a Danish filmmaker, and her feature film debut was Freud's Leaving Home from 1991. Some other of her select filmography would be In a Better World 2010, Love Is All You Need from 2012, and then Bird Box from 2018. I really love that her films focus on pain, tragedy, and atonement because it's just dark and depressing, and like that kind of dream of trying to like redeem yourself, or how can we come back from this. And it's just raw and real, and I can't watch movies like that all the time. It just couldn't do it for me, but every now and then that's the kind of movie that you really want. This is the kind of film that can really change the way you think. Hopefully for, you know, the rest of your life, but at least for a bit after you watch a movie like that. Now, completely differently from earlier filmmakers, her key quote. I generally edit quite heavily. In general, there aren't many scenes that are sitting where they sat in the script in the final form. So Bier is very open to changing things up to tell the story in the best, most effective way. She doesn't care about the initial intentions. She wants to see where things end up, which is really impressive as well. Like, that's the thing, like, so many different things are impressive for different reasons. And if a story can be told the best way how it was originally intended, or if the intentions have shifted completely and now we have a new, better story, to know when to go on which path is, I think, part of the craft of being a great filmmaker and a great director. I hope you enjoyed this first video. Remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss the next 4. And I said subscribe too early, so also give it a like, comment down below what your favorite filmmaker was of the day and who maybe you are looking forward to seeing in the next videos. And again, subscribe, and I will see you next time.